Hey, so I got my high nostrils done, about 2 months ago, and I just wanted to let you guys know what it's like, how it's going, kind of like the routine of it, and also what the getting pierced was like. I always look for these kinds of videos usually before I get something done. I didn't this time. I've seen a few people get their high nostrils done online, but it was a while ago. And my decision was very impulsive. Like, I knew I was gonna get it done, I just wasn't sure when, and I was kind of waiting to find the right piercer. And it just so happened that, I don't know, like the stars aligned or something, and I got a great piercer, and it turned out even better than I expected. It definitely was not my favorite experience getting pierced, and not because of the piercer, but just because of the area. It was very sensitive. So I was going to kind of explain that, because I know a lot of people ask, like, what's the pain like? What is it, what is the experience like? How is it healing? All that stuff. And I would say by far the worst part was the getting pierced and then having the jewelry put in. The jewelry part was the bit that wasn't very fun. I would say, like, the actual piercing part, it was unpleasant. It always is. It's not like, fun. I mean, it is for me. Maybe I'm weird. So to me, like, that pain part is just like kind of part of the process. It's like getting a tattoo, you're gonna have something really cool at the end, so it's not a big deal. But with this, it was like just such a sensitive area, and my nose tends to be really sensitive. Like, when I got my septum pierced originally, like, I have it stretched now, but I had it done at, I think, a 16 gauge, and I sneezed so much. Like, it wasn't even the pain of it, it was just the constant irritation up there and wanting to sneeze, and then having allergies on top of that, so it was just not very fun to heal. And with this, I would definitely say the getting pierced part was just so much for my nose. Like, I was trying not to sneeze. We had to stop a couple times because the minute that they would start, like, getting everything set up inside my nose, like, the feeling of it was a lot. And that's what was kind of interesting, is I didn't really realize, like, how much they were gonna have to stick their fingers up my nose, but it was full-blown fingers up the nose the entire time. So if you don't like that, you're gonna find this whole thing pretty unpleasant. It just made me want to sneeze. So they would kind of adjust their fingers, and all of a sudden I would just be like, oh my god, I'm gonna sneeze. Like, it's uncontrollable. And then they'd have to kind of pull their fingers out for a minute, and I'd like wait while my eyes like water terribly, because I've got, it's basically like getting a COVID test almost, like having the little, Q-tip up your nose, like ancient Egyptian style. I know you've probably seen The Mummy, and she talks about, wiggling a little stick up there into your brains. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like they were touching my brain, and I didn't like that part. So yeah, but they were so nice to me and patient and calm, and that was great. I don't usually get too panicked or anything like that, but I definitely get a little anxious. I'm not sure what to expect. Like, I went with this one, it was so sudden and just such a spontaneous decision. I hadn't really done, like, the amount of research that I usually do. Like, I knew enough about getting the piercing, and that it was going to take a long time to heal, that it's not very pleasant to pierce, all that stuff. But it was more like I didn't, plan it out weeks in advance like I usually do. But anyway, they did a fantastic job. I think we probably spent about 15 or 20 minutes marking my nose, and making sure that it was all lined up. And my original nostril piercings are actually crooked, so that was kind of a big deal to me, was trying to make the new ones symmetrical enough where, sisters, not twins, so that they can all look even, so it didn't look like I have, like, one super high and one super low. And they did a great job with that. It was so much better than I anticipated. They were, like, very thorough, and, kept asking me, does this look right? Do you want it a little lower? All that stuff. So definitely go to a piercer who's going to listen to you, especially if you're like me and you really want it to be a certain way. And I also wanted enough room for the larger jewelry that I have. I have some, like, flat, little, what do they call them? Threaded ends and threadless ends that I like to wear, and some of them are quite large, and I wanted to make sure I had enough space between the upper and the lower piercings so that I could wear those together. So that was a big deal for me. So they did it a little bit higher than they were originally planning. And again, that's also going to be like dependent on the piercer. Some piercers are comfortable going a lot higher, some aren't. So you just kind of, it's whoever you can find that's willing to do it, and hopefully is doing it within their skill level and not beyond it. But no, this person was great. And the jewelry I got initially was actually these opals that I have in now, and I'll show you guys some pictures so you can kind of see what it looks like. We had really long bars put in. I don't remember the lengths, I'm sorry. But they told me, you know, you're gonna probably want to come back in 3 to 4 weeks because these are probably gonna be too long, but I swell so much initially, we thought it would be a good idea to just go longer. And it was a good choice because they actually were so swollen after I got them done. Within like probably 5 to 10 hours, like this upper part of my nose was fairly swollen. And the bars were the perfect length. And it actually took 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks for them to like settle down enough where I felt like I could get the jewelry removed and reinserted without it like just swelling up again. But yeah, that's a big one. Make sure that if you know that you swell, you let them know that so they can put in even longer bars. And you don't want them too long also, because then you're going to snag on everything, which is of course what happened right after the swelling kind of went down. I start catching it on everything, like my towels, my hair. You're in the car and your hair just goes, you know, and gets stuck on your face. So just know that. Get long bars if you can. So the actual piercing part was not as bad as I envisioned. It was the putting in the jewelry part that, oh, yeah. So it's already a really small area. Their fingers are gonna be just up there the whole time, just so you know. Like, you're gonna have fingers, gloved fingers that smell like rubber up your nose the whole time, or at least a good chunk of the time. And that part just was constantly making me want to sneeze, and just was very annoying. It was sort of like, you know, when you have really bad allergies and you have that tickle in your nose and you can't really do anything about it because you're like in a crowd or something and you don't want to like sneeze and have everyone turn around and like think you're spreading Ebola or something. So yeah, I definitely had them stop a couple times just so I could get used to the feeling, so that my nose wouldn't, you know, have a full-blown reaction, because I didn't want to sneeze while they were, you know, putting a giant needle through my nose, because I got them done at a 14 gauge, so it's a little bit wider needle than what they normally would use. All my jewelry is 14 gauge, so it just seemed normal to get a 14 gauge again, just so that everything's universal and I can change my jewelry really easy. Since I have so many bars, I have so many flat back librettes, so I'm like, might as well. Anyway, so I did get them done with the opals that I have in right now because they're flat. They don't get a lot of stuff caught on them. They're easier to clean, which was a good choice. And I think probably the worst of it, like I said, was just them pulling it through my nose. Like, they got the needle in and I was like laying on my side, and then they had to pull the whole thing through my nose, and that was like, ugh. Like, you want to sneeze, you want to cough, your eyes are like, ugh, and that's what was happening to me. Like, my eyes were just, I probably looked like I was sobbing or something, but it was just all that pressure inside my nose. Like I said, I have a very sensitive nose, and every time I get any kind of piercing in my nose, which I've already had 3, my eyes water just terribly. But anyway, they were super chill about it, and even, you know, would stop and stuff and make sure I was okay. And then just just the feeling when they were done and then the tops were actually on, I was just like, oh, thank God. I would say this was more painful and like uncomfortable for me than getting my conches done at a larger gauge. Like, this was definitely a lot more than that. Like, I wouldn't say, like, it wouldn't put me off. Like, I would definitely do it again. I'm not saying that, but it was more just that whole experience of your nose just constantly being running, your eyes running, and just feeling like someone's just jamming stuff up your nostrils. Like, that was just not my favorite. But yeah, I think if you want it done, you definitely should just find a good piercer. So we'll talk a little bit too about like the healing. So I swelled up a ton right after. My nose looked ridiculous. My piercings looked so wonky, like it was really bad. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad I took pictures. And I did. And I highly recommend this. If you get something done, especially something that's supposed to be symmetrical, even if it's not, just take pictures. Take really close up, really good pictures immediately after you have it done. Doesn't matter if your face is red, doesn't matter if you're not wearing makeup or whatever, just take a picture so you can look at it later when you decide to panic and tell yourself that they're completely crooked and you hate them, okay? And I didn't quite hate them, but I knew that they were off. And seeing them before, like when I actually had just had it done versus like 10 hours later, the difference was monumental. Like they looked like different piercings. Like one was kind of up here and then the other one was kind of down, because this one for some reason just swelled up so much more than the other one. And I think it was because we just had so much trouble getting that jewelry into that space. And then I've already got, you know, this other flat back in here that was really long. Because I actually had these downsized, the bottom ones downsized as well, because I've always had bars that were too long because nobody has short 14 gauge bars. So I had those downsized as well when I got the top ones downsized. But yeah, it was just so cramped in there and hard to get everything where it was supposed to be that this side just swelled up bad. And I was just like, for the first couple days, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to look at it. But I knew it was going to calm down, and it did. It got the irritation bumps pretty bad, and so I started kind of cleaning it better. I definitely recommend not touching it or pushing on them, and that's something that they told me as well, is like, don't stick your fingers up your nose. It's going to be tempting because you're going to have all the crusty, nasty boogers up there, and you're going to be irritated because you can't breathe well. They just told me, leave it alone, you know, don't mess with it, you know, at worst, just kind of try to gently blow your nose and, you know, get some of it out. And so what I started doing was I adjusted my shower and I made it like on the hardest pressure that it has, and I would just kind of stick my face up in there, even if I wasn't going to take a shower, just to spray them and to kind of get a lot of the gunk off, because that's kind of what starts happening as they get like a buildup around the bottom part of the actual opal. So once I figured out how to properly clean them and to not piss them off too much, because definitely the first couple times I was using Q-tips, which I tell you not to do that because of the fibers in the Q-tips, they can actually get kind of stuck in there. But I just was so tired of it having like a bunch of gunk and I could not get it off. So I just started kind of soaking it like from the front in the shower. I would let it get really damp and wet and then and then wipe it off. Sorry, the cat. And yeah, that worked really well, and I noticed the irritation bumps started to go down, and I started to be like extremely gentle with them. I'm also a stomach sleeper, so if you are too, then definitely consider not sleeping on your stomach and not sleeping on your face, because that's kind of what happens when you stomach sleep, is you end up like this. I did that a couple times on accident and then woke up and they were even more swollen, and like I said, they looked so wonky, and I was like just like, oh my God, please stop, like just make the swelling go down. But it finally did. And once I hit like probably the 4-week mark, so about a month, they started looking way better and almost normal. There's definitely, I can even see it now, there's like a slight like raise to the top of my nose, like where it's a little bit swollen, but it's getting better. And these are a long healing piercing, so this is more towards the top of your nose, and like, I mean, this is already, it's technically like a cartilage piercing. These take longer to heal than some other piercings are gonna take. Like, I mean, we're looking at like a year to a year and a half before it's gonna be like not sore from getting moved around, and until I can like treat them like I treat my industrial, which is to say not to treat it at all. I lay on it, I put my headphones on it, like it's fine because it's like 8 years old. So it's going to take a long time for them to get to that level. Actually, one of the people at the front desk was kind of trying to talk me out of it and basically saying like, it takes a really long time to heal. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, that's okay. I don't care. I'm used to it taking a long time. And I think that patience is kind of a big deal with these sort of piercings. Like, it's not going to be perfect overnight. It's going to take time. It's not going to look great for a little while, probably, if you're like me and you swell a lot. But if you treat them well, they usually heal faster. And yeah, like I said, I highly recommend just the shower thing. And when I did the downsize, they definitely swelled up again. They embedded very slightly. I noticed them kind of like settle where they kind of were pushing into the skin a little bit. But within like 2 to 3 days, that swelling went down again, and then they were fine. And now they're pretty good. I did blow my nose pretty vigorously one day, and I noticed the next day they were kind of pushing into the skin again. So I think my bars are like just the right length, and if I went any shorter, they would probably embed and I would have to go get them, get the bars done again. And I'm sorry if you can hear the ice cream truck. It's an ice cream truck. Anyway, so overall, like, I would rate the piercing, like, for like enjoyability, I would give it like a 3 out of 10. Like, not very enjoyable as far as like getting it done and everything, but as far as liking it, I think it's like up there with my very sadly failed eyebrow piercing. My eyebrow piercing was actually my favorite one, but it has rejected 3 times now, and I had to like give up the ghost, and I've got like a decent scar now on my eyebrow, so I can't get it re-pierced there, so I'd have to get it re-pierced somewhere else. Well, thankfully these aren't like that, and it seems like they're healing pretty successfully, so I'm really happy about that, and they're definitely one of my favorite piercings. I think mostly because it's unique. There's not as many people with high nostril piercings. I think it looks really cool with different combinations of jewelry. I see a lot of people do like nose chains or just different combinations of threaded or threadless ends. And like I said, I have some really large ones that are kind of ornate that I think would look really neat with these. So I probably will eventually start like messing with the tops and deciding like what color I want to do. I don't think I want to stick with the opals. I don't like having color on my face just because, I don't know, I like black and white and I like metallic colors, so I usually like have silver or gold, or I'll do a combination of both. So I'll probably switch to that eventually, but those tops are kind of pricey, so for right now I just have the opals. I really like them. I did them like a staggered size, so the top ones I think are a little bit larger than the bottom ones. I might do that reversed, I don't know, I couldn't decide. But this is just what I ended up with, and they were able to install this for me because I made an appointment with the same piercer when I got everything, the bars swapped out. So, but I'm really happy with the outcome. It's looking really good now. I think I'm very slightly crooked, and I can see it sometimes in certain pictures, and then I'm just like, ah. But like I said, the piercings I started with were not centered or they were already crooked. So this was like really good, all things considered, and I feel like they look a lot more symmetrical now than they did before. It used to really bother me when I would wear certain tops on my nostril piercings because I'm like, oh, I could see how uneven they are, but it's fine now. I'm much happier with it. So yeah, I recommend you get it done, but you're gonna hate it probably, unless you don't have a sensitive nose, in which case maybe it'll be great for you. I hear it's like some people get their septum done and they're just like, oh, it was like nothing, and for me, I just sneezed the whole time. So it really just depends on your body, what you're used to, just how it responds to stuff. But anyway, I thought I would give you an update on that, since I'm trying to like post every time I get something new done and kind of explain it. So I know how comforting it can be to watch other people talk about getting something done, and it can like help me feel like, okay, this will be okay. Like, I watch a lot of like tongue splitting videos, and I want to get my tongue split someday, so watching those videos makes me feel a lot more comfortable about it. So hopefully this helps you feel more comfortable too. That's the whole point. And anyway, if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'll try to answer. I'm not great with social media, but I'll do my best. Anyway, thanks. Bye.